Hello Mouses! Today we're going to look at 4 news items. It's a bit more than I would normally do, but they've annoyed me a bit, so let's get into them and we can perhaps sort them out in 3 or 4 minutes. Maybe a bit longer if I end up being ranty. First up is the idea from France that Google's new privacy laws, where they're linking all of their privacy laws from all the various things into one document, somehow breaches EU law. I've had a quick look through it, and from what I can tell, it's not an awful lot different to what was in all of the individual documents. But apparently those didn't breach EU law, and this one now does, specifically because it shares information across different services. Now, I'm not going to get too much into whether it does or does not breach EU privacy laws, because that would take up an entire video, and perhaps we'll do that another day. But what really got my goat is the reaction that some privacy people in the British media have been suggesting. So let's quote one of them. According to Big Brother Watch's General Nick Pickles, only 12% of British Google users have read the new agreement, which is interesting to me because it's been plastered all over every single service on Google for, good grief, over a month now? It's been around a while. I mean, I've seen it 20, 30 times on just various services that I use. So let's put it this way. If you're using Google, even semi-regularly, you'll have seen it a lot. And if you're using Google every now and again, it still comes up whether you're logged in or not, saying, we're changing our privacy policy. Please read it, it's important. So if only 12% of people have read it, well, that's their fault, not Google's. But anyway, Nick Pickles went on to say, if people don't understand what is happening to their personal information, how can they make an informed choice about using a service? Well, let's put it this way, Nick. I'm going to speak from British law here, and I'm pretty sure it's in line with European, otherwise we'd have been pulled up as well. UK law quite clearly states it doesn't matter whether you've read the terms of service on something, but if you use the service when you've been provided with the terms of service, then you are effectively accepting those terms. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, these people, if they're complaining now, well, stop using the service. Just cut their losses and go, and use something else. Use Yahoo or whatever other search engine's still around. Use those instead, because by using this, whether you've read it or not, you're accepting those terms. And it's as simple as that. So the question of making an informed choice is irrelevant, because using it means you've accepted it. But, and I'm sorry to say this, but Google put those policy terms out there, so if you didn't read them, that's your own fault. On to the next news. In the run-up to the 30th anniversary of the Falklands conflict, Argentina is saber-rattling again, and now Downing Street has decided that it's time to call them out on it. According to the BBC News today, Downing Street has accused Argentina of pursuing a policy of confrontation over the Falkland Islands. And you know what? I agree. There have been. They've been going on for months now, going on about how the Falklands is Argentinian and they should be having their rights to that area back. Not that they actually have rights to the area, because, let's face it, it's been there for thousands of years. They claim that they have some sort of ancestral right to it, but to be honest with you, those claims are very, very strongly disputed. And the people who are there right now have been there for generations upon generations. They've been there for hundreds of years, and they are all British. They're British by law and British by identity. And Argentina's going in and going, no, it's ours really. No, it's not. Get over it. You fought for it, you lost, get over it. Short and sweet, that one. Now let's come to the third topic that we need to discuss only very briefly, because we've touched on this before. It's one of those things that you're either for or against, and if you're against, you're stupid. Because it's again about equal rights through marriage for gay people. So all of those who don't like it, turn off now. I've got here, beside me, in the Telegraph, a blog entry which, to be honest with you, I had a lot of trouble reading because it seems like a rant more than an actual article. I'm surprised the Telegraph has published it, to be honest. By Christina O'Donnell, or however you pronounce your name, O'Donnell or whatever. It's one of those strange names anyway. And she's calling it Heterosexual Marriage, the love that dare not speak its name. So, let's get into that, shall we? The Love That Dare Not Speak Its Name is a poem from Lord Alfred Douglas, specifically the poem Two Loves. It traditionally refers to homosexuality, and it was in fact quoted at Oscar Wilde's trial for gross indecency, the one where he got locked up for being a homosexual. So to use the love that dare not speak its name in reference to heterosexuality is pushing it, to say the least. And she goes on to do this rant about how heterosexual marriage is good for children and all that, and I'm not going to say that it isn't. I was brought up by two very loving parents, and they did a very good job, I would like to say. I'm sure a lot of other people would say so too. I've got 2 degrees, a good job, a nice house. I've done very well for myself, and we as a family are incredibly close. I'm not going to say that heterosexual marriage is a bad thing, because it's not. However, I will say this. If you're going to say that heterosexual marriage is being undermined by gay marriage, would you also, if transported back a few hundred years, suggest that equal rights for black people would be undermining white people? Because you are essentially arguing on the same thing. You're saying that you want things for your people, but not for those people over there. And that's unfair. Not only is it unfair, but it's inexcusable. Don't do it again. There is really nothing else we can say. This is a horrible thing to have written in a public newspaper in a country that prides itself on decency and equality. And you should be ashamed of yourself. Okay, that's all we really have to say to that one, because let's face it, she's not going to listen. So let's move on to the final one, and this is the one that's really, really upset me. I'm going to read from here again because I can't always get names right otherwise. Eric Bakubi and Magale Barmood, 2 people from London in their late 20s, have just been found guilty of murder of a relative of theirs, specifically Magali Barmood's 15-year-old brother, who, for some reason, they decided was cursed with witchcraft and had put spells on other members of the family. So they tortured him for 3 days, and then he drowned in a bathtub on Christmas Day. The judge, in this case, it sounds a little bit like it's something from an action film. He was 1 case away from retirement when this came up, and he's excused every member of the jury from jury service for the rest of their lives because this has been such a traumatic case. These people are sick. Now, one of them, the man, has a neurologist who suggests that he's brain damaged. The woman has no such excuse. The neurologist is claiming that the man in this case had delusions because he was mentally ill. However, he had someone else there who could have stopped him, or at least phoned the police before the 3-day-long torture session happened. This is inexcusable. How can these people defend themselves under this circumstance? I am glad they're going down, and I like to think that they never get released, because this is unacceptable. Even in a mental state, you would at least have some sort of inkling that something was wrong. I'm going to leave that there because just thinking about it has lost the point that I wanted to make. I'm not the kind of person who normally says that we should have the death penalty, but sometimes it's required. Oh. And I'm going to leave it on that because I'm just upset now. So, until tomorrow, I've been Zoe Kirk-Robinson. You've been watching the video. Don't have nightmares. I'll see you tomorrow.